Inspiring single mom loses job, helping girl discover how her life changed in an amazing way. As Sarah rushed through the front door of her small home in Maplewood, the weight of her day draped over her shoulders like a leaden blanket. She had cry in her throat, losing her administrative assistant job at the local doctor's office, a position she clung to as firmly as the walls that kept her family's world intact. Now, the chaos of unpaid bills, looming deadlines, and stressed-out meetings hovered like clouds of uncertainty above her head. All she could think was how to shield her daughter, Mia, from the dark storm brewing inside her. "Mama, why are you sad?" Mia, with her wide, innocent eyes, clutched her stuffed bear, seeking comfort from Sarah, who couldn't even soothe herself. The sweet child's question only deepened Sarah's anguish. How could she preach resilience when her own foundation felt so shaky? Every "I'm okay" that slipped past her lips weighed heavier than the last, a thin veil barely masking her growing panic. The thought of finding a new job felt more distant than ever, stirring up feelings of inadequacy and fear. Desperation clawed at her. Volunteering at the community center seemed a sensible distraction, a chance to redirect her turmoil, perhaps even reignite some forgotten passions. That's where she met Emma, a timid girl who struggled desperately with reading. In the quiet moments spent baking cookies in the center's kitchen and wading through dog-eared worksheets, Sarah felt alive again, like a spark reigniting on a cold winter night. But even as she found joy in these interactions, a gnawing fear settled in. Could she dare to consider teaching? The sheer notion thrilled and terrified her at once. Should I even think about my dreams? The inner voice whispered doubts louder than the joy she had just rediscovered. The thought of enrolling in school, of balancing motherhood with her own aspirations, twisted her stomach into knots. What if she failed? What if Mia suffered for it? The fear of jeopardizing the fragile stability they had built became her constant companion, pulling her down into lingering shadows of despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The challenges facing Emma ran deeper than mere phonics. Sarah uncovered layers of educational injustice, money-starved classrooms, weary teachers, and children silenced by circumstance. A fire ignited within her, and she began to envision a life where she fought for those overlooked by the system. Yet, as momentum built, chaos reared its unpredictable head in the form of a scandal involving the school board. All of Sarah's hopes could crumble with a single revelation. Should she pursue her dreams, risking the safety and stability that little Mia had come to rely on? With spring fast approaching and her determination like buds ready to bloom, Sarah stood paralyzed at the crossroads of her life, grappling with conflicting emotions. What would it cost her to be the voice for others? Scandal and self-doubt swirled around her like a tempest, magnifying her internal struggle. As whispers of change reverberated through her community, Sarah felt herself teetering on the edge, heart racing and mind grasping for clarity amidst the chaos. Would she dare to stake everything on a purpose far greater than her own? The first notes of a community meeting began to echo in the air, drawing her nearer to a precipice she could not yet bear to face. The following morning, Sarah awoke to sunlight seeping through the thin curtains of her living room, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air. Each beam felt like a challenge, an invitation to step outside her self-imposed shadows. Mia was still perched on the edge of sleep, her serene face framed by unruly dark curls. The sight of her daughter's peacefulness tugged at Sarah's heart with a mix of guilt and motivation. What kind of example was she setting? It was clear now, indulging in despair wouldn't build a future worth dreaming about. Focus shifted from her fears. There would be no moments wasted on passive contemplation. She had to act. The community meeting loomed closer, yet doubts clung to her like cobwebs. Sarah clutched the notebook she had begun filling with ideas for tutoring sessions, lessons that could empower children like Emma. What if I could actually make a difference, she mused, the thought exhilarating yet daunting. She envisioned her new reality, a life of purpose intertwined with her role as a mother. Pushing fears aside, she devised a plan. First, she would reach out to local educators, those who seemed tired yet passionate. They were the ones who could lend insight on how to navigate the tumult of establishing a tutoring program within the flawed system. Her connections from the community center offered more than simple exhaustion. They possessed the knowledge that could support her mission. Later that afternoon, she navigated the rows of desks in the local library, searching for familiar faces. Each interaction ignited a flutter of excitement in her chest. Sarah felt an unshakable sense of possibility as she connected with teachers who had shared her frustrations and hopes. Their collective energy began to draft a blueprint for change, rooting her initial fleeting thoughts in tangible realities. Yet, as conversations turned serious, nervousness crept in again. Questions buzzed in her mind, escalating her self-doubt. Was she qualified to lead such an initiative? She noted the apprehensive glances from seasoned educators, their skepticism palpable. What could she offer that they hadn't already tried? They couldn't know about her own insecurities. If they sensed her uncertainty, how could they trust her vision? Racked with guilt, she still felt compelled to voice her ideas. Gathering courage, she stepped forward during a discussion break. "What if we approached this differently?" Sarah began, her voice quivering slightly. "What if we created an environment where every child feels seen, where they can ask questions without fear?" Words flowed freely as inspiration surged, creating a dance between clarity and chaos in her mind. To her surprise, nods and murmured agreements cascaded around her. At that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't merely advocating for Emma or struggling students. She was reclaiming her narrative, transforming her vulnerabilities into strengths. As the meeting wrapped, she felt a new resolve settling in her bones. The world of education was vast, filled with hurdles and frustrations, but also overflowing with potential. She yearned to take the next step, to find funding and resources for her vision. In contrast to the storm of doubt that had once engulfed her, Sarah now felt the gentle breeze of hope nudging her forward. Clarity blossomed. This was more than just a job search. It was a pivot toward a driven mission. Returning home, her heart still racing with adrenaline, a wild surge of ideas flooded her mind, igniting a sense of urgency to act. But before she could solidify her next steps, she encountered a nagging realization. Would the school board's scandals threaten everything she hoped to achieve? Would they seek to dismiss her passion for change as idealistic folly? As the sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across her living room, Sarah's gaze fell upon Mia. The innocence in her daughter's eyes was a reminder of everything she fought for. She took a deep breath. In her heart, she knew the moment had come to face the battle ahead. The next morning, the world outside her window seemed brighter, a testament to her newly sparked hope. Yet inside, uncertainty simmered beneath the surface, like a pot close to boiling over. As Sarah made breakfast, her reflection in the stovetop caught her attention. There it was, the faint shadow of doubt lurking in her eyes. Could she really spearhead a movement that could reshape education for kids like Emma? The thought was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Over breakfast, she contemplated her strategy. The next step demanded meticulous planning. Sarah opened her notebook, pages filled with sharp, clean ideas that now felt more substantial than the day before. Each line was a promise of what could be. funding, resources, partnerships, she would need to construct a formidable proposal for the school board. As daunting as it seemed, this was her chance to illustrate her vision, to justify her place among seasoned educators who had seen it all. As she carved out time later that day, Sarah found a sense of comfort in her small workspace at home. The walls around her bore witness to her struggles and victories. It seemed fitting that she would work here, surrounded by reminders of her journey. She segmented sections of her proposal, focusing first on the needs of children who slipped through the cracks of a broken system. As she typed, her fingers began to fly across the keyboard, fueled by a pulse of determination. But with each new paragraph regarding her vision, an inclusive, empathetic space where children could thrive, self-doubt wormed its way back into her thoughts. Who was she? A mother yearning for change, or an ambitious idealist out of touch with reality? Unavoidably, her mind drifted to the murmured skepticism from the educators. Would they view her as a novice hovering at the edges of their seasoned domain? Her heart raced at the thought of addressing the school board. The very idea filled her with anxiety, yet it also ignited a fire within. She would not simply be asking for funding. She would be painting a picture, a narrative that echoed the stories of countless children, particularly Emma and her struggles. It was a story that craved visibility, longing to transform their plight into power. As she honed in on the proposal details, Sarah found clarity in her intentions. She envisioned heartfelt discussions, each paragraph a stepping stone toward a greater aim. This was a program that would express every child's right to be understood. Wouldn't that be something? A chance for children to feel valued, to grow up with dignity. Just as she began outlining the benefits of the environment she hoped to foster, a sharp knock echoed through her thoughts. The stark reality of the ongoing school board issues loomed above her like a thundercloud. How would she navigate a proposal infused with her dreams when battling disillusionment was the order of the day? Then, an unexpected idea struck her, a way to start small, bypassing the board at first. Instead, she could initiate a community-focused pilot program, operating outside the school bureaucracy while gathering evidence of success. This approach could demonstrate the demand and support for her initiative with quantifiable results. The concept filled her with newfound vigor. Sarah realized a creative pivot might not only shield her from immediate confrontation, but might also allow her to illustrate a viable model of change. But with this strategy, the stakes were perilous. Would this bold move draw unwanted attention or ignite opposition from a system threatened by disruption? The clouds outside gathered once more, darkening the afternoon, mirroring her internal storm. Sarah's heart beat in time with the crackling energy around her, both frightening and exhilarating. She was on the precipice of something extraordinary, yet uncertainty churned at her core. One conversation, one meeting could either elevate her vision to reality or dismantle it before it even began. As she pressed her fingers against the keyboard to articulate her new plan, a wave of apprehension washed over her. The time had come to face not just the board, but also the underlying fears that held her captive. Would she find the courage to stand her ground and chase after the future she envisioned, or would she shrink back into the shadows? Raising her head, she watched Mia playing softly in the nearby living room, her daughter's laughter breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds. Sarah's resolve crystallized. She could not turn back, not now, not ever. With her heart pounding, she shifted metaphorical gears. The fight to reclaim her narrative wouldn't just be for her, but for Mia and the countless children yearning for guidance. As she prepared to take the next step into the unknown, a determined thought resonated. She must step into her power or risk losing everything she had just begun to build. The day after her breakthrough, Sarah rose early, invigorated by her plan, but understandably skittish about implementation. She envisioned the pilot program blossoming beyond the confines she once trembled in, an image brightened by the sheer potential of what could be. It would not just serve as a refuge for children like Emma, it would send a message. Who could disregard a space thriving amidst adversity? With barely a glance at the morning sunlight pouring through the window, Sarah dressed and headed out for a strategic coffee meeting with a close colleague, Jenna, whose experience in education gave her a foothold over bureaucratic hurdles. She felt slightly reassured at the prospect of sharing her vision with someone who had been in the trenches and might offer insight instead of judgment. Seated in a cozy cafe, the aroma of roasted coffee beans surrounding them, Sarah shared her ideas, projecting all her passion onto the table. "It's all about working around the system," Sarah said, her caffeine-fueled enthusiasm punctuated by the clinking of her coffee cup. A pilot program outside the board's scope could show them just how powerful a child-centered approach can be. "That's bold," Jenna replied, her brows furrowing slightly. "But have you considered the pushback? You know how protective the system can be." With a flicker of apprehension, Sarah inhaled. "I have, but there's a fire in me now that's hard to ignore. I need to prove this model works before I ask for any official backing." Jenna nodded slowly, her demeanor growing more contemplative. "It's a risk, but if you can gather data and stories of impact, you might sway a few hearts in the board. However, I worry about your position if it doesn't pan out. What if it blows back on you?" The words struck Sarah. Deep inside, she feared the inevitable doubt that would cast shadows over her vision. Would she be left holding the remnants of a dream that collapsed before it could take flight? What if success wasn't on the horizon? Nevertheless, as she surveyed the potential within her plans, her confidence crested anew. "No matter the outcome, I have to try. I can't look into Mia's eyes and tell her I was too scared to fight for what was right." A subtle shift arose. "You might consider rounding up a small team or some volunteers for the pilot. You don't have to go at it alone. That could also foster community support." Sarah nodded, a seed of determination germinating further. It lit up her mind with the thrill of collaboration. Who could she recruit? Perhaps some parents discontent with the system, or local educators who shared her vision. When the meeting concluded, Sarah departed the cafe feeling buoyed, but she was immediately reminded of the urgency of action. She'd need to gather support and resources without delay. It wouldn't be easy. There would be skepticism, families disenchanted with the current education paradigm to navigate, allies to seek, dangers to confront in the shadows of a rigid structure. Back at home, focus settled back over her workspace. Photos of Mia adorned the walls, their smiles serving as reminders of why she was fighting. Adoption of this new, vibrant initiative would not be confined to theory and dreams. It would be grounded in tangible outreach. As Sarah began drafting a call to action, her heart raced with anticipation and apprehension. This was not simply about securing funding or creating programs. It was about rewriting the narratives of children like Mia and Emma. Each line she wrote anchored her to purpose, but it was a purpose fraught with uncertainty. Would she find allies who would fortify her endeavor, or would the walls of indifference close in? The reality of her journey weighed on her as she maneuvered through her thoughts. The potential for glory ran parallel to the risk of setback, but there was no turning back. When the day turned to dusk, she realized a nagging thought lingered. What if her efforts drew the ire of those too invested in maintaining the status quo? The specter of conflict loomed palpable, challenging her every conviction. With each keystroke, she understood she was not just advocating for kids, she was entering a realm defined by disruptors and defenders alike. It was clear, as she readied herself to step into a contentious world, the stakes had never been higher. With her heart pounding against her ribcage, Sarah knew she was on the brink of confrontation, not only with others, but with the deepest parts of herself. Would she rise to the challenge she had set forth, or would the whirlwind surrounding her objectives sweep her back into the quiet dark? The answer awaited her, just outside her grasp. The following morning, Sarah woke up with the weight of her ambitions pressing against her chest. Each beat of her heart reverberated with the echoes of yesterday's conversations. The fire within her induced both excitement and trepidation. She had no time to coax her anxiety into submission. The day demanded action. After a quick breakfast, she ventured into her living room, a makeshift war room where her ideas conspired with reality. Stacks of papers littered the table, proposals, timelines, potential contacts, each a step closer to breathing life into her vision. What if everything she believed could be transformed into a tangible reality? Her first agenda item, reaching out to parents and educators. Not just a casual email, but a heartfelt message that encapsulated her aspirations and the urgency for change. She typed rapidly, pouring every ounce of hope and urgency into her words. This was not merely a solicitation for support. It was a call for allies, a rallying cry to those who, like her, had witnessed the shortcomings of the system. Once satisfied with her invitation, Sarah hit send and felt a flicker of accomplishment. But with that flicker came a flicker of doubt. What if no one replied? What if they didn't believe in her vision as she did? She resisted the impulse to ruminate on it and shifted her focus to logistics. With determination pulsing through her, Sarah grabbed her phone and started jotting down names. Parents she had met during meetings, seasoned teachers with whom she had shared coffee, local activists she had crossed paths with, each name representing a possible pillar of strength for her fledgling initiative. What surprised her was how many connections she had already made without fully realizing their potential. As she strategized, another concern crept in: resource acquisition, funding. She knew she needed a solid plan to present to potential backers once her pilot demonstrated need and impact. The idea of writing grants felt daunting. Whispers of past failures echoed in her mind. Still, she shelved the insecurities and made a pact with herself to view them as lessons learned rather than chains holding her back. Just as she finished jotting down potential avenues for funding, her phone pinged, a series of messages from Jenna. A flurry of advice, contacts, and words of encouragement flooded her screen. It was infectious, a reminder that she was not in this fight alone. Jenna had even offered to introduce her to a few community leaders, forward-thinking individuals who had the potential resources and interest to support innovative educational efforts. Each message bolstered Sarah's determination, pushing her further into uncharted territory. The next hours morphed into a whirlwind of phone calls and emails. Suggestions from Jenna lit a path through her skepticism as Sarah's confidence took baby steps into a broader spectrum. She could feel the stir of possibility shaping around her, conversations ignited with anticipation, a life force that wrapped around her heart like vines around a sturdy oak. But as she finished a call with a local community leader, unease returned. "You're certainly passionate, but this is an uphill battle," the voice had warned. Their words struck against her resolve. The tension around her tightened. What if they were right? What if she was just another dreamer trying to trespass the boundaries that others had accepted? Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself in the swirling chaos. She reflected on Mia and Emma, on the many faces she had met who felt unseen. What if her fear of conflict, of challenge, was the very thing that led the system to stagnation? She closed her eyes, envisioning the pilot program, the laughter of children learning without restraints, thriving in an environment built for them. This was bigger than her. Resting her hands on the table, she understood. It was time to step forward, not just as a reformer, but as a warrior of consequence. The stakes weren't merely bureaucratic, they were fundamentally human. With a surge of resolve, Sarah crafted a new plan. She would not only seek allies, but convert the skeptics into believers. The battlefield ahead would be etched with her convictions, but also filled with challenges and confrontations that could evoke the worst and best in her. And as she locked in her new resolve, an unsettling thought pressed against her consciousness. She was about to take a leap that pulled her into a battle not just against an indifferent system, but potentially against people she had once called allies. The time had come to face her biggest fear, the risk of losing it all for the hope of gaining something that could change lives forever. Sarah's resolve crystallized into a plan as tangible as the stacks of papers on her table. She began by sketching a detailed outline of her pilot program, focusing on its core values: inclusivity, creativity, and a departure from rote learning. The more she fleshed out her ideas, the more conviction surged through her. But with each hour that passed, the ambition that fueled her work overshadowed a creeping anxiety. The specter of doubt loomed larger. "Can I really change anything?" she asked herself, feeling the weight of a million no's she anticipated. Yet, each time her thoughts spiraled into despair, she fought back, channeling that energy into her next strategic move. She started researching grant writing techniques, immersing herself in online forums, and downloading templates. It felt daunting, yet empowering to learn something new. Each small understanding, each successful comprehension of a concept bolstered her confidence. She was transforming fear into skill, uncertainty into knowledge. By evening, Sarah picked up the phone to call one of the local activists, a man named Marcus Jenna had recommended. Though she'd previously shied away from reaching out to big names in the community, the fear of inadequacy gripped her less tightly now. She focused on her mission rather than her insecurities. "Hi Marcus, this is Sarah," she introduced herself, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. At first, they exchanged formalities, but as the conversation progressed, Sarah found herself revealing the depth of her enthusiasm for educational reform, laying out her vision for a new approach to teaching. To her surprise, Marcus was genuinely intrigued. "You've got a passionate mission, Sarah. I can see the impact you want to create," he stated, and for the first time that day, a real smile appeared on her face. They discussed ideas for collaboration, and Marcus offered to share her project with influential figures he knew. "Consider that your first step, Sarah. Surround yourself with those who believe in change," he advised, and his encouragement encouraged a flood of gratitude within her, dispelling the earlier doubts momentarily. With each friendly conversation, each solid step toward her vision, Sarah could feel pieces of her old self, the insecure, self-doubting version, falling away. She was discovering pockets of resilience she never knew existed, reminding herself that her mission was deserving of attention and respect. However, her newfound confidence did not obscure the darker corners of her mind. A small part of her still echoed the warnings of cautious voices, the idea that she could ruin friendships, alienate allies she needed for support. What if her attempts to spur action only cast her into a role as the lone wolf? Sarah's thoughts pushed her to delve deeper. She invited a few parents who had shown interest in her earlier outreach to coffee, unsure if they would embrace her changes or shun her enthusiasm. The outcome of those meetings would be pivotal, not only for her project, but for her psyche. Would she be welcomed with open arms or met with resistance? As she prepared for the meetings, she neatly organized her talking points. These weren't just about gathering support. They were about creating a dialogue, a connection between her vision and their own experiences. She envisioned the discussions, feeling the weight of shared stories, understanding how integral their voices would be. Yet just as the excitement peaked, a dark thought flickered in her mind. What if she was setting herself up for further disappointment? What if they didn't share her vision at all? The risk of vulnerability towered menacingly above her like an impending storm. Nevertheless, she inhaled deeply, choosing to focus on the journey ahead. After sending out the coffee invitations, Sarah sat back in her chair, staring at her laptop. She realized she was ready to engage, ready to hear perspectives that could both challenge and ignite her project. This was her acceptance of the risks involved, an embodiment of her belief in the greater mission. As dusk settled, casting shadows that danced across her living room, Sarah acknowledged that she was on the precipice of something transformative. The coming days would not only define her project, but also her ability to navigate fears and forge connections. The question echoed in her mind with growing urgency. Could she truly unify these voices, or would she find herself at the forefront, alone once again, battling the heavy drum of doubt that threatened to drown her ambitions? The morning sunlight filtered through the window, painting golden streaks across her cluttered desk as Sarah prepared for her meetings. She organized her notes with a meticulousness that betrayed both her nervousness and her determination. The weight of her mission hung thick in the air, a palpable tension that pulsed within her. Each cup of coffee she brewed felt like a small ritual, a moment of grounding before she stepped into the unpredictable arena of opinions and expectations. She rehearsed her points, navigating through the passion that filled her heart, but also the fear lurking at the edges. Could she really inspire these parents to see the world as she did? As she glanced at her phone, a fresh wave of anxiety washed over her. What if their skepticism overshadowed her fervor? There was a palpable risk in sharing her vision. The possibility of rejection loomed like an uninvited guest. But she had made a commitment to herself. She would embrace the discomfort and challenge herself to stay true to her values, even if it meant facing resistance. When she arrived at the small cafe, the eclectic aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods momentarily soothed her nerves. She found a table in the corner, strategically positioned to offer a semblance of control over the environment. With each tick of the clock, she reminded herself of the importance of this moment, not just for the project, but for her personal growth. This was a step away from isolation, a leap into connection. The parents gathered one by one, and soon the table brimmed with familiar faces filled with curiosity. At first, pleasantries floated above more serious discussions, but Sarah could sense an undercurrent of apprehension. It mirrored her own unease, and she leapt into her pitch, laying out the foundation of her program: the drive for inclusivity, the encouraging spark of creativity, the necessity for a departure from traditional teaching methods. As she spoke, she sought their eyes, searching for signs of acceptance or skepticism. A mother named Elena, her brow furrowed, interrupted her with the first real challenge. "But doesn't this approach risk losing structure? Some kids thrive on routine." Sarah felt the air shift. The tension crackled like electricity. In the past, such a confrontation might have sent her reeling, but she met it with resolve. "You're absolutely right. Structure is vital. However, structure can coexist with creativity. It's about balancing both to cater to all types of learners." As the discussion unfolded, she navigated through individual concerns, addressing fears and highlighting the potential benefits of her approach. Each response was a duel, but with every rebuttal, she felt muscles she had never used begin to strengthen. Conversations turned dynamic, and slowly, the initial skepticism began to soften. Then an unexpected breakthrough occurred. A father named Raj, who had remained silent until then, leaned forward. "I see what you're saying, and I've always felt there must be room in education for more creativity. My daughter is an artist at heart, yet her school doesn't celebrate that." His words echoed a truth that Sarah had deeply internalized: artistry as a valid pathway in education. With newfound momentum, Sarah navigated the dialogue towards solutions, suggesting ways they could engage the school to advocate for changes collectively. With each exchange, she felt confidence swell within her, the earlier storm clouds of doubt beginning to disperse. However, just as things took a promising turn, the doors swung open violently, welcoming in a flurry of cold air. A figure entered, a disheveled man Sarah recognized. From her local community meetings, someone bitter with the educational system's flaws. The room fell silent, the tension rising once more. The man's gaze locked onto Sarah, fiery and accusatory. "You think you can save them? You think you can change what's broken?" His voice was sharp, challenging. Sarah braced herself, feeling the energy shift dramatically. The man's presence was an unwelcome potential derailment, a threat to the vision she was beginning to solidify. "Maybe," she replied, her heart racing but her voice steady. The weight of her journey coalesced into that single moment. Could she stand strong against the disbelief embodied before her? The room remained hushed, all eyes now on her, urging her to respond, not just with a retort, but with conviction. This was her moment. Could she confront the doubt outwardly, and in so doing, conquer the doubt that still lingered within? The realities of her mission loomed larger than ever, filled with potential and peril. Would she emerge with a community of voices behind her, or would she falter in the face of harsh reality? The next moments would define not only her project, but the evolving essence of herself. The man's glare bore down on her, pungent with disbelief. Sarah felt her pulse quicken, her mind racing to formulate a response that would not only counter his challenge, but also galvanize the support she so desperately sought. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she began, her voice steady but tinged with conviction. "It takes grit, persistence, and collaboration. I'm not here to save anyone, but to suggest a different path that we can pave together." The words came out more forcefully than intended, but she welcomed the swell of adrenaline. Could she convey the sincerity of her commitment to this cause while addressing the raw skepticism before her? The man's demeanor softened slightly, though the tension hung like a thick fog. Sarah couldn't allow herself to focus solely on him. She had to engage the entire room, to remind them of their shared purpose. As she scanned the table, she saw half-interested parents and their wavering faith. "Education should be a springboard for creativity, not a cage for conformity," she continued, momentarily warming to her topic. "Each child, including your children, has the potential to flourish in their unique ways. And as parents, we have the power to advocate for that change. But first, we must believe that it is possible." In that instant, she noticed the hesitance in Elena's eyes shift slightly as a flicker of understanding appeared. Encouraged, Sarah pressed on. "Every small step towards embracing creative methods can transform how our children perceive their worth, their talents, and their futures. But this only works if we work together." Mutual interest began to ripple across the group. Others nodded, considering. The man, still unsatisfied, leaned back, crossing his arms defiantly. "That sounds good in theory, but have you ever tried to implement it in a real classroom?" His question stung like a barbed wire, cutting through the encouraging atmosphere Sarah had worked to build. She realized then that beyond this group meeting and their collective agreements, she lacked practical experience in applying her expansive vision. It was a gaping hole in her credibility, and it gnawed at her confidence. "Not yet," she admitted, the weight of her vulnerability palpable. "And I understand that's a valid concern. The practical application," Sarah paused, examining the faces looking back at her, "is where the challenge truly lies. However, isn't that the very reason we must start this journey together?" Reinvesting herself into her argument, Sarah's thoughts began to reorganize. Perhaps today was not just about inspiring others. It was also a unique opportunity to initiate her own learning curve, a chance to bridge the gap between ambition and action. The back and forth with the man shifted something inside her, igniting a fierce determination to embrace the unknown aspects of her mission. She would need to act and strategize, to grow alongside those who shared her vision. Keeping a team engaged would require her to step outside her comfort zone time after time. "Let's strategize," Sarah gestured animatedly, "to transform our ideas into plans. We may start with a simple workshop or a community meeting at the school where we can educate parents on the benefits of creative learning. Together, we could present a case for integrating these methods into our classrooms." The room murmured with a collection of curious reactions, each parent processing the prospect of involvement differently. As they processed her proposal, Sarah felt an exhilarating rush. Amid the uncertainty, she also acknowledged the opportunity blossoming from this discomfort. Yet doubt still threaded through her excitement as she caught the man's eye again. He remained skeptical, a persistent thorn in her side. She knew she would have to confront him again, not just here, but also within herself, as she continued translating vision into tangible impact. As conversations started to form around her suggestion, Sarah's mind ventured forward, calculating each potential risk, each challenge ahead. To transform ideas into action would require not just the cooperation of the other parents, but her own fierce resolve. Could she manage both without faltering? The meeting concluded with tentative agreements and half-hearted nods, but it left Sarah invigorated. She realized her path forward was not just about driving change within the school system, but about evolving herself simultaneously. The ultimate question loomed. Could her personal growth keep pace with the change she sought to catalyze? With a heavy heart, but a mind alight with possibilities, she prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The next step awaited her, both daunting and thrilling. Would she find the courage to harness the doubt that had shadowed her development? The following morning, as sunlight poured through the window, illuminating her humble living room, Sarah sat on the edge of her couch, remnants of the previous night's meeting swirling in her mind. The enthusiasm that had coursed through her veins was now clouded with uncertainty. Change requires bravery, she thought, but reflecting on her inexperience made her pulse quicken anew with anxiety. She reached for her phone, contemplating calling Elena to gauge her interest in the workshop idea. The hesitation hung heavily in the air as she shuffled through moments of anticipation and doubt. Would others believe in her vision enough to join her? Compelled to circulate her thoughts, she grabbed a spiral notebook and a pen. Her heart raced as she scribbled frantically, one idea spilling into the next. Workshop ideas, she began, but quickly shifted to partnerships, a more empowering term. The act of writing reinvigorated her. The ink on the paper felt like an anchor in turbulent waters, bringing clarity to her chaotic thoughts. As she strategized, exhilaration shifted from her mind to her core. Perhaps her perceived inexperience was not a barrier, but an invitation to learn as she led. It demanded of her transparency, an authenticity that might resonate with the other parents. She underlined collaboration in bold, the word vibrating with unambiguous energy. But what he didn't know about himself, she realized, would become crucial in her journey. The uncertainty that accompanied her lack of experience could also mirror the uncertainty palpable in the rest of the parents. Was it possible they were all searching for the same validation? She closed her eyes, imagining their faces filled with hope, their expressions transformed as they began to envision a better system for their children. Diving into the potential workshops, she hit another obstacle, her fears about public speaking. A voice in her head cautioned her against overextending herself. Yet, spending too much time in the shadows of her insecurities wouldn't serve her purpose. A thought flickered. What if she revealed her struggles? Vulnerability could forge a deeper connection and encourage others to join in. Flipping through her notes, Sarah quickly jotted down, opening with a personal story. That could be her entrance into uncertainty. Though the idea sent a shiver down her spine, the fear of sharing the imperfect aspects of her experience was almost overwhelming. She recognized its potential to draw in an audience seeking authenticity. Hours later, after several revisions, she was ready to reach out to Elena. Holding her phone, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, a cocktail of emotions charged with intent. The message flowed. "Hi Elena, I've been thinking more about the workshop idea we discussed and I'm eager to get feedback. Would you be willing to meet to brainstorm a bit?" As she hit send, adrenaline coursed through her veins. It was a pivotal moment. Here she stood, shaky but determined to evolve, one step closer to gaining the trust and commitment she wanted to inspire amongst the parents. Anticipation for Elena's reply fizzled with potential energy, but lingering apprehension remained. Did she have what it took to mobilize a bunch of hesitant parents towards transformation? The day stretched on more slowly than she would have liked, each hour filled with agonizing minutes as Sarah ruminated over possible strategies. Instead of succumbing to her fears, she opted to prepare for the response she desperately sought. She arranged her notes strategically, focusing on each point until they felt familiar and ripe for discussion. When a ding finally resonated from her phone, Her heart stuttered before racing ahead. It was Elena. "Absolutely, let's set a date." Sarah's breath released with an unexpected rush of relief. The opportunity to present her vision and confront her doubts was now upon her. As she began drafting a plan for their meeting, she couldn't shake the realization that this was merely the beginning of her personal evolution. The weight of responsibility to push the initiative forward sat heavy on her shoulders, but it brought with it an exhilarating charge that ignited her determination. "Sarah," she whispered to herself, looking at her reflection in the window, "this is your moment. Don't shy away." In that instant, the urge to build the workshop ignited like a flame within her. Yet a nagging question remained. How deep would her self-doubt run before she could rise to the challenge? Days passed like a countdown to an indeterminate future, each tick building momentum as the impending meeting loomed large. Time was running out, and in the urgency to assert herself, a revelation stirred. It was time for Sarah to stop holding herself back. Stepping firmly into this next phase of her journey would mean confronting her deepest reservations head-on. The moment had arrived. How would she translate this newfound determination into measurable impact? The day of the meeting arrived, the air in the cafe electric with the kind of anticipation that often accompanies new beginnings. Sarah adjusted her posture, managing the blend of excitement and anxiety coursing through her. This gathering represented more than just a workshop talk. It was her chance to solidify her vision and rally a team of supporters. As she settled into her seat, she reviewed her notes one last time. The points clearly mapped out where she wanted the conversation to flow, every aspect crafted to lead parents into partnering for the bold change she envisioned. But one thought clung to her. Could she articulate her vulnerability and empower them at the same time? Minutes later, Elena arrived, her eyes brimming with encouragement. The conversations unfolded naturally, quickly transforming Sarah's nervous energy into a fluent discussion about their children's education. Each shared story and concern layered added richness to their conversation, generating a collective yearning for change that pulsated in the air. When the others, fellow parents, teachers, and local advocates began to join, the table buzzed with varied voices. Sarah felt her earlier trepidation melt away, replaced by an invigorated sense of purpose. They rallied around the idea of a workshop, a space dedicated to exploring how a creative approach to education could help their children thrive. But as she spoke, a familiar voice whispered uncertainty. What if they opted for complacency instead? However, as she shared her ideas, she infused them with her experiences and the growth they encountered. Ignited within her, channeling each moment of doubt into motivation. "I've stood in the shadows," she confessed, "wrestling with fear and insecurity. But I believe the struggle is what binds us. If we want a brighter future for our children, we must confront the turmoil within the current system together. Let's reshape the landscape of education, not just for them, but for us too." In that moment, the room resonated with newfound enthusiasm, and laughter sprung forth like light breaking through clouds. Conversations developed depth and clarity, ensuring their mission was a community effort rather than an isolated pursuit led by Sarah alone. As the heat of the discussion flowed, parents' initial skepticism transformed into excitement. Onlookers who had once crossed their arms in doubt began leaning forward, their engagement palpable. Sarah felt the distinction of a shift. No longer merely a chance gatherer of ideas, she was becoming a facilitator of collective hopes and dreams. The workshop plan solidified when Raj expressed how he would bring resources from his workplace, pledging to reach out for local funding opportunities. That comment emboldened Sarah to suggest a follow-up meeting for exploring their roles in leading community outreach. By the time the meeting concluded, something extraordinary had blossomed. A coalition of parents dedicated to supporting innovation in their children's educational experience. They exchanged commitments and a tentative calendar of follow-up meetings, effectively capturing a sense of camaraderie. Sarah felt invigorated, confident that they'd begun crafting the shift toward an inclusive, engaging approach to education. On her way home, buoyed by triumph, she reflected on the transition from uncertainty to belief, as if shedding an old skin. Each step echoed the evolution of her journey. The woman who once feared sharing her vulnerabilities was now a resourceful advocate. She had transformed her scars into the driving force behind a movement that not only sought change for Emma and others like her, but exemplified growth within herself. When Sarah opened her front door, Mia's cheerful laughter filled the air, a sound that always reminded her of the heart of her fight. That moment crystallized the essence of her journey. Sarah hugged Mia tightly, feeling every ounce of pride and joy envelop her. "Mommy, what did you do today?" Mia asked, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "I started something important, sweetheart," Sarah replied with solid confidence. "A chance for change. And now we begin the real work of standing up for our dreams." The obstacles that had once felt insurmountable now glimmered with opportunity as she saw them in a different light, less daunting, more inviting. She knew she would face opposition, but had found her footing, her voice strong and established. Sarah had achieved not only a solid footing within her community, with the promise of a more fulfilling future for their children, but most importantly, she had proven to herself that she could rise above her past. In that moment, filled with satisfaction, Sarah stood empowered. She had conquered self-doubt, secured her position as a leader, and embraced her authenticity. Worth. With the support of a community behind her, she could face, confront, and transform the educational landscape for Mia and countless children like Emma. Do not wait even one more second to act. You need to subscribe now to the channel and not miss the next exclusive emotional stories showcasing personal triumphs like Sarah's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find these profound narratives. Comment your thoughts and theories about this ending, sharing how you resonated with Sarah's experiences. And don't delay, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting conclusion. Your support is essential in transforming stories of overcoming together.